don't let your inexperience scare you. Let your inexperience and your intuition, to a large extent, guide you to disrupt something.
Well, so hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for this One Young World episode on Together Apart series. My name is Caritta Seppa, and I'm from Finland, and I'm one of the One Young World ambassadors. I'm also a social entrepreneur and a co-founder of a technology startup called Tespack. We focus on mobile energy and in creating portable solutions by combining hardware and software that can provide the needed access to energy for off-grid personnel like rescue workers and teachers who has to work in extreme conditions. Our goal is basically to ensure that, especially during the COVID-19 times, when many of us individuals and families were isolated at home, that even those people that are isolated at home in rural regions, they could still have that access to education, to access to healthcare, by us providing them the solutions that can power all the equipment needed. We're very proud to be collaborating with NGOs like Plan International and United Nations Refugee Agency. And it's a great opportunity to be here today, especially being a co-founder of a social impact startup and also a technology entrepreneur myself. I believe very strongly that one of the key ways for us to tackle some of the major challenges we have, especially in order to achieve the SDGs, is through innovating and through providing technology solutions. Today, it's a great honor to have here together with us Anjula Acharia. She is a remarkable entrepreneur and investor, and especially for myself being an entrepreneur myself, I couldn't be more thrilled to have her as one of the persons to interview here. Just some of her many successful investments, including companies such as ClassPass and Bumble, as well as The Muse, which was actually founded by the 2019 One Young World Entrepreneur of the Year, Catherine Minshew. Anjula has also co-founded DesiHits, which introduced a major artist to India and launched the careers of people like Priyanka Chopra together with Jimmy Iovine. On top of all this, she is also one of the biggest supporters of female founders and entrepreneurs and a critical voice for diversity in tech. Thank you so much, Anjula, for joining us here today. Could you start by telling us where are you joining from and how does the situation look like around you right now?
Yeah, I'm in Miami right now. You know, I came from LA, and it was a lot worse in LA from the, you know, the demonstrations and then obviously COVID. So it was a lot worse there. I think it's kind of a little bit more relaxed here. So yeah, kind of enjoying a little bit of the ease that I feel here versus being in the thick of LA.
Oh yes, I can only imagine how it is there. It's a slightly different back here in Finland. So it's great just to see how globally we have a lot of people from joining us around the world. Could you start, maybe we can kickstart the interview. Could you explain a little bit more, how did you get started as an entrepreneur and also as an investor?
Yeah, you know, my whole life experience and work has been totally accidental in every way. I can, you know, I think about people that have plans and plan their lives, and I just never did that or have never done that. And instead, my attitude to life, I think, is to always be to find the opportunities. So whatever situation I'm in, call me an opportunist if you like. I think I'm always looking for the good in things, and I'm always looking for opportunities. And I think therefore I've always found them. So I started my career very early, well, honestly, very early in my life in advertising sales, and sort of worked my way through kind of different publishing companies and working in ad sales. I actually wanted to be an actress. I studied theatre and arts at school, but unfortunately it was very little money for a brown actress, in fact next to zero. And everybody in the industry had sort of said to me, well, if you want to be a poor actress, then go ahead. And I decided that I was going to be not going to be a poor actress, but going to be a rich businesswoman instead. So I switched, but I will say, you know, it's so funny. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was saying how being raised in the theater and doing improvisation and things like that really helped with my career, because I could be thrown into any situation, and if I didn't know how to handle it, I'd act like I knew how to handle it. So I was really like, you know, fake it till you make it. Perception is everything. I subscribe to all of those sayings, because I was really one of those people that if I didn't know how to handle something, I would just channel a person that I thought did know how to handle it, and I'd pretend to be them. So, so my career was very accidental because of that attitude. I think I stumbled into lots of different opportunities and met people along the way that kind of believed in me and helped me. And so went through my early career in advertising sales, and then I moved to America, and ended up getting into venture capital. I went into venture capital because I was actually in advertising recruitment, then went into recruitment, and then was working for VCs in the Valley, recruiting CEOs and C-level talent for startups. And then me and my ex-husband came up with this idea called DesiHits, which was really, have to give it to him, was his idea. And I sort of jumped on the bandwagon, and we co-founded this company called DesiHits, which was really a platform that allowed Eastern artists, Indian artists to get to America, and American artists to get to India. And it was this fusion world that I'm kind of obsessed with, of culture. And growing up in the UK, you know, I was explaining to someone today that, you know, the neighborhoods that we sort of grew up in were very sort of mixed, and culture was very much sort of like a mixture of British culture, I would say a lot of Caribbean culture mixed in, and Indian culture, like West Indian culture, very merged, and created a subculture that I was part of. And I wanted to bring that culture to the world. So DesiHits was this platform which really, it was a mashup of content and news, and it was like from Hollywood to Bollywood, from hip hop to Bhangra, from reggae to soul. It was like, it's just like a mixture of different influences of music and pop culture. And from there, I moved on, and unfortunately I didn't make any money with DesiHits. It was an incredible idea, and Jimmy Iovine, who was one of my investors, told me that, I mean, this is a funny story actually. He told me that it wasn't going to work. He told me, like, literally 3 weeks into writing me a big check, that it wasn't going to work. And I said, Jimmy, why would you say that? And why would you give me all this money if you didn't think it was going to work? And he said, well, look, you know, I know pop culture and you're just too early, but the fact that you're early and the fact that you see this makes you a visionary. And he said, and this is your first single, and this may not be a hit, but your second single will definitely be a hit, and your album's going to be a masterpiece. And I was like, it was like a compliment wrapped in a kind of like knock, because I wasn't going to be successful, as according to him, in this current company, which I'd like given my life to. And he was not wrong at all. And then Jimmy and I signed Priyanka Chopra together, and, you know, she's turned into be a really big hit. So he was right. You know, and I'm developing my masterpiece album with all my investments and whatever. So, oh yeah, and then I didn't say, but like, to when I founded DesiHits, I made my first investment, and it was completely by accident. Seppa, who is the founder of ClassPass, she came to me via someone in the music business, and she was just like, you know, a young female entrepreneur and wanted some advice, and I'd raised money and she wanted to raise money. And she just came to me for advice. And, you know, I'm passionate and I believed in her business. I felt like it was a cultural shift and a game changer. I saw her as the strong entrepreneur behind it. I didn't know I was passionate about backing women then. I just knew I really loved her, and I just knew that she was magic. And I just said to her, look, I mean, I was, you know, earning very little money myself as an entrepreneur having raised money. So I said, look, I don't have very mumuch money, but I think I gave her $10,000. Like, it wasn't a lot, but I also gave her an office space, and she incubated ClassPass in my office.
Wow.
And I was there every day, just like being, you know, moral support and talking through ideas and pivots and changes. But through her, and then actually it was through her that I met Catherine Minshew. And Catherine was just like, obviously my background was recruitment. So Catherine and I met at the Forbes Women's Summit, and we ended up like ditching the conference and talking for like 3 hours and redeveloping her business. And I just was like, you should do this and you should do that. And we just debated different ways to develop the business, and look where she is now. And then obviously I invested in it too. And it was just like this knock-on effect from her. Then another woman would come, and another woman would come. And, you know, now I have a portfolio, I think, of about, I don't know, maybe some 15 companies, which are I would say 99% of them are female founded. And, you know, my skill has really been in helping them raise money and helping them create their value proposition and develop the right contacts.
Wow, that's very impressive. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really love, like you said, that you've been basically there looking for different opportunities. I guess the best or the biggest success in life, they typically are not the one that we plan for. They're just like opportunities that
not
actually
in my case anyway.
So I think definitely your story is a great example of looking for and those opportunities working out well. Also, I would love to hear from you, because I can see that you're very committed in expanding diversity, and as well as you already mentioned, through that mentoring different, especially female founders, and also funding them. So from the time that you began your work, have you actually seen an increase in successful female-led companies?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, the stats are always doom and gloom and feel grim. But I think that, you know, I mean, in my personal portfolio, I've seen a lot of success. So, you know, I'm not going to say it's easy. It's really not easy. But I think that, you know, I'll give like Whitney Wolf as an example, who's the founder of Bumble. You know, she's had immense success and is really paying it forward in terms of like now funding other female entrepreneurs. And I think the more of us that get successful, the more we're going to, you know, invest in other women. The more success I have, I'm going to put more money back into investing in women. So, you know, I think the more successes we have, the more, you know, the better it will be, kind of thing.
Very true. It's actually very great to hear, like you said yourself, that when, let's say, female founders in general, when they make it, there's a lot of also giving back, or seeing that as a one way to support other entrepreneurs to get back into the business. By you being successful, you want to also give that back and see other women-led businesses to make it. So I think that's a very, very great thing to see. In regards to DesiHits, could you perhaps tell a little bit more about the process, how it was created, and what has been the impact on the India's music culture?
Yeah, DesiHits, you know, is kind of, I would say, it's a bit like Napster in that, you know, Napster didn't have the big exit and whatever, but it led us into streaming. It led, you know, it paved the way for Spotify. It paved the way for other companies. And I think DesiHits was very similar in that we didn't have a big exit and make lots of money, unfortunately, but it was definitely a cultural shift and it moved things. And it sort of like really, I think it sort of like opened up more doors for collaboration of different cultures in music, which is so valuable. And I think it also like pushed the agenda for pop culture. And out of that, you know, I signed Priyanka Chopra. I had a label that ran through Interscope Records, which Jimmy Iovine had supported. And, you know, if I hadn't done DesiHits, I wouldn't have signed her. And I think she's had a huge impact. You know, we see so much more now of her success has really led, in my opinion, to other people, other I would say brown women getting opportunities that they wouldn't have got before. Like, you know, seeing her as a lead in the ABC show Quantico after, you know, Viola Davis and Kerry Washington and Sandra Oh and Sofia Vergara. I think it was just like, you know, a lot of advertisers didn't see that they would be able to make money off of shows that were led by diverse female leads. And I think that she added to a list of women that showed that that wasn't the case. And that was actually an ignorant comment, because the reality is these shows made money and, you know, and sold globally. So I think that all of this happened because of DesiHits, and none of that would have happened without DesiHits. And I think some of the cultural phenomenons we created, like, you know, we did at DesiHits, we dressed the Pussycat Dolls up in saris for Fashion Rocks, and they later went on to do a collaboration with A.R. Rahman for Jai Ho, which was top 10 in 10 countries. So, you know, I remember speaking to Jimmy Iovine and saying I wanted to take Bollywood to the middle of America, and I wanted to change culture and the way people saw our people. And, you know, the thing is about South Asians in general, we've never been seen as a cool race. Like, you know, we don't have play in pop culture. We don't have play in sports. We don't have play in a lot of different areas. We're very much known, and in the media we were known as either tech guys or terrorists. And I wanted to change that. I wanted to change the opportunities for people like me. And I think it came from a very visceral place because, you know, as a South Asian from Britain, wanting to be wanting to be an actress and being told at every corner that that just wasn't going to be possible because there just wasn't any roles for me. And I was just so adamant that at some point in my life I wanted to change it.
Well, I think definitely you have been paving the way, not only for other female founders, but like you know, you shared yourself about Priyanka Chopra, not only Quantico. I have noticed that she's also been signed up for the next year for the Matrix 4. Yeah. So I can bet we're going to be hearing a lot, not hearing, but also seeing a lot more from her. So I think, like you said yourself, there has definitely been, you know, a great success in it. And I'm sure there's going to be, this is overall going to pave the way for all the other new companies or, you know, women to basically take place. What could you maybe share a bit more? What helped to launch Priyanka's career? So basically, what prompted the career switch? And I know you already explained a little bit more how has all this taken place, but would you be able to maybe pinpoint what was one of the key successes behind that?
For Priyanka?
Yes.
Yeah, you know, I had a strategy. So yeah, I look for opportunities and I don't normally have a plan, but with Priya, I did have a plan. And the plan is pretty simple. The plan is, if you want to infiltrate a pop culture, see, I always think American pop culture is very interesting because it really travels the world, right? I mean, it's like American pop culture is probably America's biggest export, you know, whether it's music, fashion, I mean, it's everything. I mean, we launched the NBA in India last year, Priyanka did. So, you know, I mean, even sports, like, you know, is a big export for America. And I think that the way I sort of saw her was, okay, there are different sort of pillars to pop culture. There's music, there's TV, there's film, and there's sports. And you could say art to a certain extent, fashion. And I was like, okay, I need to knock down each and every one of those. So I need to find an opportunity to infiltrate her into every piece of pop culture. So it started off, and I can break it down for you. It started off with her second single that we did, first single that we did. I remember discussing it with Jimmy and saying, we need a sports moment. So what we did was, I mean, she's a beautiful woman. She was the Thursday night football for the NFL theme song. So she had a song called In My City, which we did with will.i.am, and it was a theme song for Thursday night football for the NFL. And I was like, okay, that's a huge audience in America. NFL is American football. It's like part of like popular culture in America. So let's attack that first. So we did that. That was like the first thing that we did. And that opened up to her up to a huge audience that didn't know who she was within sports and culture. And obviously with a huge male following too, as well as women, but a big male following. So that was kind of interesting from a sports perspective. Then the next thing I remember thinking was fashion. And I always think about when I was growing up and coming to America, what was the biggest export in fashion? And to me, it was always the Guess girls. The Guess girls were always, I remember always in England, just growing up seeing Guess girls and like hearing about Guess girls. And they'd never had a South Asian Guess girl before. And I was like, well, we have to change that. So we had a meeting with Paul Marciano, and our agent Christian Carino at the time had facilitated this meeting. And you know, we talked to him, and he was like, let's do it. And so Priyanka was the first South Asian Guest girl, and you know, she was in every magazine across America with her name. And I remember telling them that she has to have her name on the ad because no one would know who she was. So it was one of the first times that Guest had actually put the names of the models on the ad too. So that was the second piece. And then it was, and then catching the younger audience. So then we did a Disney movie called Planes. And I was like, okay, so, you know, this is a young audience that's going to grow up into our audience. And we should do something with Disney. So we did that. And then it was television. And, you know, I met Kelly Lee, who was really the woman that was responsible for putting Sofia Vergara, Sandra Oh, Sofia Vergara. She was the one really, Kerry Washington, really driving popular culture and women, not South Asian women, women of color onto TV shows, and we were in our sort of like era of television. So when we met her, Kelly and I collaborated, and we put Priyanka on Quantico. So that was that done. So there was television, and then there was film, and we did Baywatch, which I got to be honest, didn't love, but it was obviously a big popular culture moment, because it's such a history, Baywatch, in America. So I thought that was a great movie to put her into. So really it was just kind of like fashion, music, television, film, younger demographic, Gen Z, and yeah, just really sort of like touching every piece of pop culture and infiltrating her into those areas. I think you can never see something in a silo. I think, when people think about music, they're like trying to break a music artist. They're like, okay, I'm just going to focus on music, or I'm trying to break an actress, I'm just going to focus on film or television. And I think that if you want to, in a fast amount of time, you want to break pop culture and create icons, you really have to do it in a systematic approach where you're looking at everything. And I just broke it down into the pillars of pop culture.
Wow, that sounds very interesting. And I think that can be also a strategy that can be applied or implemented for, let's say, for other people or individuals who would like to really make it on the career. Like you said, is try to tap on different opportunities and different industries. Don't just focus on the one thing if you really want to make it in the pop culture.
Like, I think sports really influences music. I think that music really influences sports. I think film influences television or influences popular culture or fashion, right?
Yes.
I think that when you're thinking about creating a global icon or infiltrating, becoming famous or becoming a celebrity or whatever, like, you have to realize that different parts of pop culture influence the other parts of pop culture. So you can't just be siloed. I think that was kind of always my strategy.
And it makes sense. If you look some of the biggest stars right now, they might have started, like you said, in a sport industries, but right now they might be also one of the biggest stars in fashion market as
Right.
well. So like you said, they're very interlinked markets. So it makes sense.
I mean, look at Michael Jordan and his sneakers, it's like, that's a huge business, and that's fashion, that's footwear.
Exactly. So I think those are really great advices for anyone who's listening, interested on that pop culture, to try to look on these different, verticals and industries to get into. So right now we are basically dealing with the whole COVID-19 globally. As you are an investor with quite a many different companies, and you continue to mentor and work with them, have you actually seen there been any major setback, specifically also for female entrepreneurs, because of this COVID-19 situation?
I mean, look, I think there's definitely setbacks in terms of, you can't get out to meet investors. You have to do everything like this. But I always like to focus on the good things. And I think the setbacks are pretty obvious, to be honest with you. It's just challenging getting out to meet people if you want to raise money. Like, it's more challenging. But, all the funds I know are still writing checks and are still meeting companies on Zoom and are still investing and still have money to invest. But what's so interesting to me and what has been so amazing during this time is the companies of mine, particularly female founded companies, that are growing. And most of my companies are kind of direct to consumer plays. So they're not focused on retail. They're, really built their own channel to their consumer. And those channels are building, and their CAC, which is cost to acquire your customer, has decreased because there's less advertising, and obviously people have pulled back. So they're sort of like finding it cheaper to advertise now, and building up their channel and their consumers. Like, for example, I have a baby food company called Yumi that, now women are at home working and looking after their kids and homeschooling and doing every single thing they have to do, and really no help. Most of my friends don't have nannies anymore, have really had to do everything themselves, and they're not going out to work. So the last thing they want to do, and they don't want to go to the grocery store, right? Because they're the risk of catching COVID. So a lot of them have like really moved over to, practical solutions such as Yumi, which is baby food company created by two women, one of them who has kids, and it really supports the nutrition of a child. It's easy, it's fresh, it's super healthy. So it's not like one of these, packaged things that you're finding on in the store at Safeway that's been sitting there for like 2 years. It's like super fresh and healthy. And like I said, the development of a child is tracked through the nutrition that they need. So they've done incredibly well. I have another company that I led the Series A for called Thrive, which is a vegan cosmetics company, which again, I'm sure is doing so well in this time. And then another company that I invested in called Pop and Bottle, which is an almond milk company, almond lattes, and they also do oat lattes now. Also a big direct to consumer channel, doubled, you know, the demand in since COVID, because people just, like I said, aren't going to the stores anymore. So it's been really interesting. I think I've been very lucky to have invested in women that have companies which are sort of direct to consumer and are in the nutrition, better for you space. All the products that I've invested in, which are consumer products, are things that are better for you, clean. I mean, like the almond lattes. The reason I invest in Pop and Bottle is because I went vegan, and I was obsessed with almond milk. But all of the ones that I found, like, literally have like 2 almonds in it, and were all gums and stabilizers and disgusting things that they put into these almond milks to make them shelf stable and to make them, you know, to make them taste good. And Pop and Bottle were really just so clean. Like, they have no sugar in them. They're superfoods. They're just really great products. So I don't want to sound like I'm selling them, but that's why I invested in them. And I think that's kind of why they're doing well. But yeah, I think the direct to consumer part of that is what makes a lot of this very valuable.
Yeah, like you said, I completely agree, and I believe that normally, typically, like challenges like right now, the COVID-19 is actually bringing up new opportunities that many other startups and companies, you know, like you said yourself, they're able to find them and they're able to implement them. For example, I saw that like ClassPass right now, they're offering a lot of virtual different opportunities and new sport lessons. So I think that has been one of the key, and at least for me also, it's been really nice to see how many different companies and, you know, entrepreneurs have been able to look into this whole situation we have right now, not only on the negative way, like how it's going to only negatively impact your business, but as an opportunity to launch something new, innovate, and also just basically grow the companies. So I think it's very nice to hear also from the experiences what you have had with your companies that is definitely, you know, taking place. I think before we wrap up with Anjula, I would love to hear from you. What is your final, let's say, call to action, or maybe an advice you could leave for the whole One Young World community, and especially with all these a lot of youth or aspiring entrepreneurs that we have here listening?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. I was talking to someone I was actually talking to Priyanka about this, and I was saying what's so interesting to me is how every entrepreneur that I've backed has zero experience in the industry that they are looking to disrupt. And, you know, as it's so funny because, you know, I'm looking to build another business right now. You know, one of my colleagues was saying to me, like, well, we need to find a CEO that's been in this industry and has done this before. And I was like, no. I would rather somebody that's never been in the industry is going to look at it with fresh eyes, is going to think about all the avenues to disrupt it. And yeah, it's going to come at it from a completely different perspective, because we don't need another Me Too. We don't need another company that's done the same way. So, you know, I think that for my advice to entrepreneurs is don't be afraid of what you don't know. You know what you don't know. That makes you very strong. But I mean, it's so funny. Jimmy said to me when he wanted me, so he was the one that sort of really instigated me managing Priyanka. And I was like, Jimmy, I've never managed anyone in my life. And he goes, that's why you'll be really good at it, because you'll come at it from a completely different perspective. She's a brown girl from India, you know, with an accent. He was like, it's going to require somebody to think really out of the box to break someone like that. And he was like, you've spent all your time building disruptive companies and investing in disruptive companies. Why don't you see her in the same way? And I was like, oh, when someone tells you that, you know, you say, okay. And so I think that don't let your inexperience scare you. Let your inexperience and your intuition, to a large extent, guide you to disrupt something. Don't let it be something that gets in the way. Let it be something that makes you see life through a different lens and allows you to disrupt something when nobody else saw it the way you saw it, you know?
Wow, that's very beautifully said. And I couldn't agree more, especially myself. I have zero tech background, but I'm still running and co-founding a tech company.
Right.
So exactly. So I think exactly what you said. So everyone out there, it really doesn't matter what is the background or your current talent, like Anjula said to everyone, go out there, try it out. And I think we can all definitely make it. Thank you so much for being
Thank
here
you.
today. Everyone, let's just give a big thank you for Anjula for her insights and for her time. And please, everyone, make sure to like, comment, and share and this episode to all the social media channels. Thank you.
Thank you.